Hey, it's your boy DevSadies here to give you some of my secret tips and tricks to making some sweet 3D Roblox art. There's some high-paced stuff, so keep up and I'll keep you strapped. Alright, let's go. Anyways, not a lot of people start with this, and this is a mistake that some skilled modelers on Roblox make. Get a good rig. Using Rig Builder, you want to export every single part individually and import them separately, as well to create that rig. There's a bit more stuff to it with the origins and keeping it centered, but you know, me being the absolutely merciful queen that I am, I'm gonna give you the blend files in the description below for both R15 and R6. I love you guys. So after exporting every part as an OBJ separately, we're going to talk about a hugely important fundamental. In modeling, organization is the most important factor to literally anything. Look good, play good, run good. It's gotta be organized here. So with that said, what are we gonna do with this complicated rig? By having more control over every part of the body, we can hide them, move them, manipulate them, and overall it's a lot more fun to work with. With this rig, we're able to hide things so we can work on different body parts separately. For example, if we were going to do a chest plate, we would hide the arm or the legs, and if we were to do the arms, we were to hide the head and the torso. So every good modeler has a reference. That's just the way it is. You can't be a great 3D artist without having something to ground you in reality. That said, how do we get a reference? Well, you're able to drag an image from your file or desktop into Blender, like I do here. Remember what I said about organization? Well, we're putting that straight into use. We understand the Roblox body and understand the armor design to see where everything would fit. Mostly, if it will fit. Sometimes you just can't do it, you know, since Roblox characters are literally just blockmen. Personally, what I like to do is use the grease pencil on the left to check where everything goes and if it looks good or not. So you just draw it on and see if it looks close enough to the armor, and you know what? It's good, so stick with it. You see here that I'm trying to retain as many key features of the body as possible. It's not about the special modifiers that I'll use or anything like that. It's about the organization and your sense of proportion. Everything else is icing on the cake to a good model. Something to note about what I'm teaching you here is that once you're done, and you've done this kind of thing enough to just have a feel of where things go, you really won't be doing this anymore. But I still do this after years of modeling when it comes to really complicated pieces that I can't wrap my head around. Concept art time. In this phase of the modeling, there's going to be some explanations on screen where you can pause, and timestamps are in the description of me explaining what I'm doing in detail. It's relatively fast paced, so feel free to slow it down for yourself whenever you need to. You see here that I'm working on following the lines that I drew for myself. I'm using the basics, extruding, moving, and scaling for this portion of the modeling. A cool thing to note is that from the origin, the arm is located exactly 1.5 m away from it. An amazing tool to have at your disposal is understanding of geometry. The more faces you have, the harder it is to control what you have going on. But the more faces you have, the more control you have over how you can manipulate the shape of the object. Being organized and in control is what separates a good modeler from a beginner. I use vertex snapping, and I'm able to align and keep my model organized and allow it to stay under my control. However, I forgot an extremely basic concept, which is to make things easier for myself. By adding loop cuts down the middle and using a mirror modifier with clipping, I'm able to give myself virtually half the workload. To make your models look nice and overall not a literal brick, Subdivision is your best friend. It smooths things out for you and makes it look really, really nice. Big tips though, don't overdo it on the subdividing or it can crash your computer. Also, whenever you have a modifier on, it's best not to fully apply it until you're absolutely certain it's what you want. I usually keep my modifiers on until I'm like 500% certain I won't need to change that object anymore. What I did here is add the Bevel modifier and place it above the Subdivide modifier. You want to use Bevel when you want to create a more rigid effect. By putting it above the Subdivide modifier, it's creating more loops for you so that the subdivision is not as prominent. I also added a loop cut in order to reduce the subdivision effect in a certain area. For the upper arm area, Bevel is something really nice on cubes, because as you can see, Roblox characters are not literal cubes. They have a slight bevel to their edges, and you can emulate that with the Bevel tool, making the part fit neatly around the edges of the arm and giving it an overall really clean looking effect.
Forged out of the past and into the present, into the dream of the future.
Pressing F3 and typing Shadesmooth, you can give it another type of shading which treats all of its edges as smooths.
Forged out of the past and into the present, into the dream of the future.
And using the already established tips and techniques, I finish off the basic modeling stage of the shoulder and upper arm, moving on to the body. Firstly, we're just getting the basic shape done. And using the already established tips and techniques, I finish off the basic modeling stage of the shoulder and upper arm. For the body, we do everything as we talked about before, modeling with the grease pencil as reference, editing for smoothness using our basic tools, like we talked about at the start, hiding the arms, bevel, everything comes together in a nice bundle of efficiency. We're going to be following the lines that we drew with grease pencil. Here, hiding the arm for accuracy and cleanliness, as well as using the bevel tool, is going to be our primary focus when it comes to keeping things organized and clean. Usually, you can emulate the neck by creating a small divot right down the middle. Making levels. What do I mean? A nice model has a decent amount of levels to it, such as height or width. Especially in games like Roblox, where texturing options are beyond limited, having geometry will be your best bet for any major difference in height on your object. For this example, we're creating levels by extruding into the abdomen, creating a visible difference in levels. For objects such as straps or belts, it's generally better to make it slightly curved right down the middle with a loop cut. This indicates that it's a flexible object. On the right side of the screen, going down to materials, we can give objects color in that weird circle looking thingy. You can create a new material and assign it to your object. Well, sadly, the color doesn't transfer when you export it to Roblox, but it's a good visual indicator for you and how it'll look. you can give a material an image texture. An image texture is just an image laid on top of the object. You can use this to create a sense of geometry without actual geometry to exist. To do this, just press the circle next to the base color and choose Image Texture. And in this example, I used the chainmail texture that I found randomly online to slap it right onto the abdomen. Remember how we were talking about Shadesmooth? A more advanced tip for Shadesmooth is that you can use Auto Smooth, which allows it to retain certain edges relative to their angle. So a cool thing that you can do for creating cuffs is just add a loop cut on a Shadesmooth object, select the faces you want, then create by pressing Alt+E and extrude by normals. Here, I throw one of the mirrors to the side by an even amount, which is 3. That way I can remember so that after I apply them and separate them, I can easily move them back into place with their respective 3 numbers. And we use the exact same technique as we did with the cuff to create the details on the strap and belt. It might seem really daunting to do symbols or other kind of sort of patterns, but using the basic skills we develop using proportional editing, adding loop cuts, we make a plane and just model the outline of the wolf that we're going to add onto the armor. In order to edit the positioning of your image texture, you have to first unwrap. So go into edit mode, select everything, press F3 and type Smart UV. After unwrapping, go into UV editing tab way up there, and then you can scale the UV down or large, and you can change how big your texture is. Hey, it's DevSadies again, signing off on this long ride of a video. Show some support, smack the like button, feel free to ask me questions in the comments. I know it's a really fast-paced video, but this is just something broad for all skill levels to utilize. Really hope you guys learned something. There may be a part 2 explaining a lot more, and it'll be a bunch of complex stuff, so be sure to master these skills before I make the next one. I challenge you, yes, you, the viewer, to do something fun and exciting. At me on Twitter, and I'd love to see it. Like, subscribe, and all is well. DevSadies signing off.